seen a lot of beginners are there who are super interested in participating into the hackathon. So this is the reason we are taking up some beginner friendly topic, so that you can start and you can continue your journey during the whole week. And the next week we are also going to come up with another topic. So when we repeat this cycle, we are gonna do and learn a lot of stuff together. Maybe if you are not the winner of hackathon, that's also fine, because you have invested a lot in your learning. You have came a long way, because we are going to be coming live every week for next 3 months. That means you have a lot of opportunities to learn. So for everyone who is here, I'm so happy that you guys take out your time for learning, and you know that how important learning is, and how you are going to go ahead and participate in hackathon as well as into any other CTF event. This event is so important as this is conducted by Indian Army. You missed the first session. We are trying to figure out to host the recordings for the first session. Those who missed, still this second session, I'm glad that you are here, so that we can interact more and more, and we can see all your doubts into the live chat, and maybe we can solve this. So this will help you understand the concept even better. That's okay. We'll figure out that how we can make the recordings reach to you on time. We are working on this part. Uh, okay, yes, you will get a certificate according to me for participating into the event. So yes, it's there. Without wasting more time, I would like to share my screen. Rohit, I guess I have issues in sharing my screen. If you can check the permissions. Mm, no. Yes, Rohit. Now I can. Thank you.
Yeah. Now you can? Great. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll be starting with the very basic thing. Even if you are in very first year of your college or degree program, still you would know and you would be able to relate this topic, because this we learn in our school days. That's HTML. So still I see when we are in interviews, we take interviews, still students are confused in HTML. So HTML is super important, which is a fundamental. So you should know and go through this topic so well. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. I'm sure you all know the full form at least. So second is HTML is the standard markup language for web pages. What is a web page? First of all, so I know that you know and you visit a lot of websites. Just like that, you are visiting and connecting to this website, that is webex.com. It's a website. You go to Indian Army website, you go to Hacktify website, or you go to any other website. So you know about websites, but did you actually know about web pages? So this website is a collection of different web pages only. So when all these web pages are combined and collected, that is only known as a website. Then we have HTML elements are the building blocks of HTML pages. Now we are trying to break down a whole website into different parts. The whole website is a collection of web pages, and web pages made up of certain HTML elements, which is represented by these tags. We are gonna understand that what are the different tags and how you can use it. Each tag has a different working. Here is a detailed breakdown of this HTML structure. Will not go very deep, just to understand, and this will be a refresher for so many who have done HTML long back. Why are we doing this? Because this is going to help you in solving some CTF challenges. This is the reason HTML is here. So HTML starts with HTML tag, ends with HTML tag. HTML has this ability and functionality wherein every element that starts should end with a forward slash. There are very few elements in HTML which doesn't need a closing, actually, but most and body. Inside this head we have title. We'll see and go to the website and see what this title is. And inside body we have different elements like h1, h2, h3, image source, a, div, script, style, etc. So we'll see into the next slide. This is a simple looking code for HTML. This you can just go and try how to execute HTML. This is super basic, so you can just go to any editor. You can even use Notepad. You can just paste your code of HTML, make sure everything is correct, save this with some name. This can be iahackon.html and then save. And to run this, we need to use a browser. I guess that's not saved. I'll try to save it again. Okay, I have permission issues, so I'm sure that I have pasted over here into this thing. That, one second. So I'll show you this once I figure out the permission issue. So till then we'll continue with this because I have already took the screenshots, and we can also understand with the help of this only that whatever that you write into the title goes and comes over here. This HTML hyphen Google slide, this is a title. Whatever you write inside this title element is going to go and come over here, this title. When you hover, you see every website has a title. This website has some title, this has some title. So every website that defines the title, when you hover, the title will be visible to the website. And then we have some elements like paragraph element. We have you can write this paragraph and different elements inside the body tag. So let me go to any website, maybe this. Right click, and when we try to view page source, you see the page source which has so many things. As we discussed, this is a HTML element. I talked about body, so body is also here. I talked about title, so you can see the title from here. So inside the title we have some home of Aconitics art, and then we have so many different elements. You can see we have h2, which is heading, and we have so much of code here. And one thing to notice that HTML ends here, HTML starts here, same way head starts here. So it's ending over here, this head. Then we have body. So this structure, I am sure that you are able to relate with this structure, that yes, this structure looks very similar to this structure. So just screenshot this image and put it into your mind forever, because every HTML page will have similar kind of structure. This basic code will understand each one in detail. So decode type HTML shows that this is HTML5 document. Then HTML is the root element. Head contains some meta information about HTML. Inside that we have title, which specifies a title for the HTML page, and body have some more elements, and it actually has so many elements that can be paragraph, hyperlink, table, list, images, etc. So here are some tags which we have seen already into the page source, that h1, h2 were some tags which you can see that this is h1, h2 similarly will be there, h3. So to use different font size, we use this different h1 to h6. Then we have paragraph, which is this small looking alphabets which you see on any website. This here is some paragraph tags as well. So HTML web page is combination of all these. Can be simple HTML as well, wherein not all but some of the tags are used. Then we have this, we can also create some hyperlinks with the help of HTML, and we can also use image source. So what is this image source and everything, I'll show you. So now I am more interested in HTML injection today. I am not interested in the development of HTML, but I want to make you guys understand about HTML injection. So HTML in for this HTML injection, you see that here when I write into the search bar Shifa, it is going to give me the output as Shifa over here. Now what if instead of writing just normal Shifa, I use something as H1 Shifa? That means I am adding one HTML tag, that is heading 1. So this H1 is going to increase the size of this Shifa. If you are not able to see clearly, what I can do is I can maybe add some italic tag over here to show you that this actually works. Can you see something different, the difference into the font? So yes, that means what, the search bar which was supposed to accept the search string is actually accepting and interpreting my codes, my HTML element, whichever I am passing over here. Isn't that interesting, right? It was supposed to accept only the strings. Instead it is interpreting, it is performing my actions. So when something that is performing user controlled action, that's harmful, and we need to test further on that whether it is doing some more activities or no. So in that case, we are not only able to perform bold, italic and other things, we can also do some malicious stuff here. As in, what we can do, maybe I can load images over here, which the website was not supposed to. So let's go and search for something as book. Let's go and search for some book images. Okay, I like this one. So you can just go and find out that we'll talk about how this this HTML injection can be escalated to some more thing. I'm not able to see. Wait, I'll write some PNG or something. Mhm. Okay, let me just copy and try this. So this is the image URL which I copied. So what I'm saying that, hey, if you are able to just do this, so also please try loading a image. So I am just trying and checking the website's ability to load certain things which it shouldn't be. So I am just pasting this URL which I copied, and I'll close the tag and hit on go. So you see that the book's image that is over here is now loaded onto this website. So you would be thinking that what is wrong in this? So there is a lot of things wrong in this. One, that it is not actually checking what a user is trying to load onto the website. That can be any harmful images, that can be any images which the website is not supposed to load. So this with this we are able to load HTML elements, as well as we are able to load some harmful images from any random websites. So I think this is for now executing only the HTML, that means interpreting the HTML tags. Further on, it can also go and load some JavaScript as well. So when you find out that something is vulnerable to HTML injection, the next step is to test for JavaScript injection, that is XSS. So we should also try loading some scripts. So what if we are able to load some scripts over here, you would be thinking. So when you are able to load scripts, that means any user defined code. So that's everything. When you are able to load the data, the code, that means you can make the website to do anything that you want. That anything can actually be anything. You can steal credentials, you can load malicious data on website, and you can do so much of stuff. So HTML injection will stop here, because HTML is so simple and we don't have so much element to perform on HTML. Further on, we'll see about XSS, what is XSS, how JavaScripts can be loaded into the same search box, and we escalate the vulnerability to certain level, and how we can write our custom scripts and host some servers to actually gain the cookie access of any user. So this will be covered by Rohit, and at the end we are going to do the quick discussion of HTML injection and XSS together. Thank you, Rohit. I think I should give you the access back.
Yes, Shifa, if you can give me the presenter access.
Mm, okay. I think you need to revoke, Rohit.
Sure, just a moment.
I can see one question by then, that isn't this a self injection? So for now, this is a self injection until you are able to send it to some other. Let's say I copy the URL, I send it to you, and then at that time it becomes something in motion. So at that time, this is actually going to harm the user base. Until we are able to do it, it's a self injection. But then we are also going to talk about the escalation of this. So yes, this shouldn't be reported once you find out, but when you are able to load images and do further stuff, at that time you can maybe write a good report and try to send to organization. Rohit, are you able to get the access?
No, just a moment.
Sure.
Can you? Really sorry about that. So let's continue from here. I hope everyone understood about the insights that Shifa has shared right now. Okay, so I think my screen is visible to everyone. Please acknowledge me. This is visible. Yes. Awesome. So Shifa was sharing her insights regarding HTML injection, which is a class of injection attack according to OWASP, and we discussed about OWASP in our first session. So yes, HTML injection can be considered as a low severity vulnerability, but definitely it can lead to attacks that may harm an organization or a web application, for example, phishing. So we have seen a lot of attacks more than 70% of the attacks compromises of phishing attacks. So definitely we should always make sure that if a web application is executing the user supplied HTML codes, then yeah, it is vulnerable and the developer should definitely fix it. Now, one thing to keep in mind is whenever we identify that our HTML codes are being executed by the web application, it strongly indicates that here there would be one more vulnerability that we can verify, and that is XSS. So we are going to verify how we can also check for XSS over there. So let me just go back to the same application. We identified that the search bar wherein the user can put some input is vulnerable to HTML injection because it is executing HTML code, right? So what if now we try to increase our severity by executing some harmful codes over here? So we are now not going to put a HTML code. Instead, we are going to put a JavaScript code over there. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to use a simple JavaScript payload. And again, this is not super difficult to understand. So we are going to use script tag start, script tag close, and we are going to use a simple alert. Okay, alert 1. Now I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go here and paste it and hit go. And let's see what happens onto the application. And here I can confirm that the web application is not only executing the user supplied input, but the web application is also executing the user supplied JavaScript input or JavaScript code, as can be seen over here. So our alert 1 is successfully executed, and this is known as XSS. Now let's talk about XSS some more. So what XSS exactly is? What is the role of XSS in pen testing or bug bounties? So in OWASP 2021, XSS has been merged into injection issues. We have already discussed this in our first session, but as we are going to discuss about XSS, so I'll just give a quick recap of where XSS falls in OWASP 2021. So XSS has been merged into OWASP 2021's injection attack. First, it was itself an specific category of bug, but now it has been merged into injection. And what exactly XSS is? I see a lot of people getting confused in XSS or maybe not able to explain XSS properly. So you need to always remember two things into your mind, okay? A simple definition of XSS would look something like this, that if any attacker is able to load his arbitrary supplied JavaScript payload and the web application, and the web app executes it. Okay, this is XSS. If attacker supplies his arbitrary JavaScript payload to a web app, and the web app not only takes the JavaScript payload as an input but also executes it, then we can say that it is vulnerable to XSS. Okay, so there are three types of XSS. The first one is reflected XSS. The second one is stored XSS, and the third one and the last is DOM XSS. Okay, so we are going to first understand what is reflected XSS. Okay, now I'm going to break it down into very simple terms so that you guys will understand that when can we say that we have identified a reflected XSS, or what is the approach of identifying reflected XSS. So there are two conditions that should be fulfilled in which you can say, yeah, I have successfully identified a reflected XSS. Okay, the first condition is the input, the payload that we are going to give should get reflected. Okay, and the second one is it should get reflected and executed as well. Okay, so always keep these two conditions into your mind whenever you're going to test for web application for XSS vulnerability, that is cross-site scripting vulnerability. So let's see over here. Here in the search arc, which is the input, as we discussed about the definition of XSS, if the attacker is able to load his arbitrarily supplied JavaScript payload, so attacker is going to supply his JavaScript payload over here as an input. So whenever you are going to test for XSS, always try to see that you identify input wherein you can supply your JavaScript payload. Here I can see, so I'm going to say Batman and hit go. And you guys can see Batman is getting reflected over here. Okay, that's awesome. Let me search for Rohit and hit go. Yeah, Rohit is also getting reflected. That means that we saw in reflected XSS, our first condition is fulfilled. So now you can go ahead and test for the second condition as well. If and only if both your conditions satisfy or get fulfilled, then you can confirm the web application is vulnerable to reflected XSS. So let us go back to over there and let us again type ROHIT Rohit and hit our payload. So now our payload is going with a keyword that is Rohit. This should get reflected as well as executed. So let's hit go and check. Yeah, we can see there was a reflection. Also, there is an execution which is happening, which confirms that this is a vulnerable application, and yes, there exists a reflected XSS vulnerability. So I hope all of you understood what is the reflected XSS vulnerability. Okay, how you can identify this into a web application. Now let us see what is the impact that you can create with the reflected XSS vulnerability and some test cases as well. Okay, let's go back over here and now so generally, reflected XSS falls in a category of P3, which is medium, on other bug bounty programs like Bugcrowd, HackerOne, and the CVSS score also remains medium for this bug. Now, in case you want to increase the severity of this bug, then you have to make a test case in which you're increasing the impact of this bug. So you may ask, okay, so I understood that we are able to load an arbitrary supplied JavaScript code. So what? What's next? What can an attacker do using this? An attacker can do a lot of stuff using XSS. Attacker can first of all steal cookies of that particular users. And you guys know, when do we use cookies, guys? Okay, let's do some interaction. So when a web server or a web application gives us cookies, guys, or why do the server gives us cookies? Yeah, for creating a session. So when the session is established, great. When there is a session, excellent. So you guys are absolutely correct. So to establish a session, the web server is going to assign us cookies, and based on that, you're going to access the web application. So the first step is we need to authenticate ourselves with the correct username and password. Once the web server authenticates us, next the web server is going to start our session, due to which we will have a persistent access to the web application and we can freely move on other functionalities or explore the functionality of a web application. You're absolutely correct. Now, there is a payload through which you can also check your cookie. So I'm going to use the same payload, but this time instead of alert1, I'm going to say document dot cookie. Okay, I'm going to copy this cookie. Sorry, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it over here, hit go. Okay, guys. So we can see over here that we identified the web application is vulnerable to reflected XSS because there was a reflection as well as execution. But my document.cookie payload got executed, but we are not able to see a cookie. And this is the reason I asked you guys, and you were correct. We are not authenticated in an application, hence we are not able to get the cookie. So let's get a cookie. So for that, I'm going to log in. The username and password for this page is test and test. You guys can also test over here. So Acunetics, this test.php.vuln is a damn vulnerable web application which is provided by Acunetics for testing purposes. So you guys can test over here. You can consider this as a testing environment wherein you can practice for all other vulnerabilities. Okay, so let's hit on login. When I hit on login, I have successfully logged in into the web application right now, as can be seen. Now I should have got cookies because my session is established. So the first and the easiest way to verify that is click over here, click on cookies in use. And you guys can see over here that there is a cookie which has been given. Yeah. the cookie, you can also see a cookie icon over here, which confirms, yeah, this is a login cookie. The name of the cookie is login. The content of the cookie is test, person2f test. So test username and test password. The cookie is valid for this particular domain according to the secure cookie attribute, and path slash, which mean all the endpoints. So this cookie is valid for all the endpoints of this particular web application. That's perfect. Now, we need to steal the cookie of this particular user with the help of XSS vulnerability. So what we are going to do is we are going to exploit XSS onto this web application and steal cookie of some other user so we can do an account takeover on this web application. Remember, we are not stealing his username and password because we don't know that. So we are not doing phishing over here. Instead, we are stealing the pre-established session of that particular user, and with the help of that particular session or cookie, you are able to log in into that user's account. Okay, so let's see this. How can we do it? So for this, you need to start a quick web server. So I'm going to start a web server quickly. I'm using a local Python server. You guys feel free to use Python PHP server, anything that you want. You guys can also quickly host an online web server, or you guys, if you already have a web server or a VPS or a website, you can also use that. Okay, to keep it very simple, I'm just using a quick Python server over here. Okay, so I'm using Python version 2.7. I'm using a module which is simple HTTP server, and I'm starting a server on a port number that is 8081. Okay, so you guys can see my server has successfully started. Let us verify what is my IP address. So I'm going to check my IP address. Yes, so my IP address is 29.97. All right, so let us verify if our server is running correctly. So let's go back to the browser. I'm going to paste my IP address over here, and I'm going to say port number 8081. Yes, the server is working correctly. We can see a directory listing enabled over here. Now we can also see in the logs that someone tried to access my web server, and this is actually my IP address itself. Hence, I'm using the same. I'm getting the same IP address because I'm accessing my server from like myself. Hence, okay, you can see the log over here. Now, if I try to access a specific file, so let's say I want to access a file which is let's say the name is ROHID Rohit, and hit enter. Now this file does not exist onto the server, hence we are getting a 404 status code. But the main motive of showing that was that we get everything into the log. So you guys can see someone tried to get /Rohit from the web server, and we can see over there that this file was not found, or there's a 404. The server is not able to fulfill this specific resource. Okay, all right, so our server is working perfectly fine. Now we need to steal the cookie of that particular user, which is this that is currently logged in. Okay, I can see there's a lot of chat going on. So is there any questions? So let me see if I can answer those questions. You can use anything less than 65,536. Yeah, so in total we have 65,535 usable ports. You can use any port number that you want, but make it a habit that you use port numbers above 100, because other port numbers may be used by your system for specific services. Any other questions that we have? We have to spider to find all the links and parameters. Yes, Ansh, you are correct. If we spider the web application, we are able to get more endpoints, and those endpoints is basically increasing more content discovery for us. So when you identify more endpoints, that means you have more parameters. That means you can identify issues in most of the parameters. You're basically trying to increase your attack surface, which will be helpful for you to identify more and more issues. Okay. Explain what is encoded payload for XSS. So any payload that is maybe getting converted from one format to another format. Let's say the web application is encoding my payload into a certain format. We can basically try to bypass it. If it has been restricted to get executed, we can bypass that with the help of encoding. You can maybe try to encode your payload in URL encoding, WRL encoding, HTML encoding, and so on. We can also try to craft our payload in such a way that if the developer is trying to strip your specific the part of the payload, maybe you can encode that as well. So the logic of the developer will get tricked, and this way you can pop up an XSS over there. Okay. All right, so we were on XSS, and let's see quickly how can we steal a user's session with the help of XSS. So what I'm going to do right now is we have started a Python server. It is working correctly. Now we have also identified the web application is vulnerable to XSS. Now it's time to steal the cookies. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to steal the cookie with the help of this payload. So just a second. Yeah, so I'm going to use this cookie grabber simple payload. Let me explain you what is this. First, okay, so script start, script tag close. This is simple. Then now you guys can see document.location.href, wherein I'm saying that refer to a specific location of this document, and I'm giving the hyperreference to this particular IP address. Now this is a specific IP address of the attacker, so you need to put the IP address of your server. So this is my IP address. I'm going to paste it over here. Yes, and the port number. So we are running currently the Python server on 8081, I assume. Yes, we are running this on 8081, and then we are specifying a parameter C, and we are saying the document.cookie should get executed and should be sent to the server on this particular parameter, which is C. Let us copy this. Let's go back to the application and let us see what happens over here. I'm going to paste it over here and hit go, and you guys can see that we got an interaction over here. Yes, we are able to get an interaction wherein document.cookie got executed onto the web application, and we are able to steal the cookie of the particular user, and we have got it in our logs. Okay, so you guys can see over here, this is the particular cookie, that is login cookie, and this is the value of that cookie. Now once we are able to steal the cookie of the user, what to do next? Obviously we're going to use that cookie to log in into a web application, right? So now let's consider I am the attacker, and I have successfully have stolen the cookie of the particular user with the help of XSS. Now I need to log in into the web application, but I do not have the username and password of that particular user. Now I have the cookie, so I'm going to install an extension. So I have an extension installed. This is cookie editor. This is a free extension. You can just go and search for cookie editor for Chrome, and you can search this from there. Okay, you can install it. It is free of cost. Okay, so you can do it from there. Okay, so now you guys can see over here. Once you are over here, now I'll click on cookie editor. I'll say add, because I want to add a cookie over here. Now let us use the cookie that we have just identified. This is the cookie. The name of the cookie is login. So let's put the name as login. Now we are going to use this cookie value that you have just got, paste it over here, and click on save. Once you click on save, I'll again save it once more over here. Now this cookie has been saved into this particular page. Now let us just try to reload the application, and you guys can see I'm able to log in. As you can see, there is a logout button right now, which confirms that I have successfully logged in into the web application. Okay, so this was just a very basic and super simple demonstration of how an XSS would look like. Also, what is the impact of XSS? How you can basically create a real life impact like this, wherein you can steal the cookie of a particular user and perform an account takeover. Okay, you can do a lot of things with XSS. For example, you can basically capture keystrokes. You can also take screenshots of the web pages with the help of XSS, and you can also redirect the user from one website to another website. Okay, so there are multiple use cases that you can do. I have showed you one of the use case, that is we need to uh, we need to steal the cookies of a particular user by exploiting a reflected XSS vulnerability onto the web application. Okay, so I hope you guys understood this. Do you have any questions? Let us take some questions. Any doubts over here? Any questions? Any online server? So yeah, you can use different servers. Um, you can choose request bin, wherein you can get interaction. You can use interact sh server as well. Okay, or you can use 000 web host server. There are different servers which you can use. Sir, burp in burp non-paid version spider is not available. How can we do passive spider? Any alternative except zap? Yeah, so really unfortunate that into the community edition we of burp, the burp active spidering feature has been removed. You guys can also always switch back to the older version, any 1.x version. From the 2.x version, they have removed active crawling of spider, but that's fine. There's no issue in that. What you can do is you can look up for some projects on GitHub. There are some projects which are for crawling of targets. Okay, some Python projects based on Scapy. So you can use that, and there is I'm not able to recall that specific project name that I've used, but with the help of it, you can basically crawl the whole target, all the links from there. You guys can also utilize wayback URLs. With the help of wayback URLs, you can crawl a target and all the URLs from that specific target. Okay, so you can use wayback URLs, and all the URLs that have been saved over time can be crawled from there, and you can utilize that as well. Okay, that is passive crawling, definitely, but in case you want to do active crawling, you need to run a spider through which you can crawl certain endpoints for a web application. Okay, can we use Gao tool for endpoints? Definitely you can use. So you can use Wayback and get all URLs both, okay, to get all the endpoints for a specific program that you're hunting on. That is awesome. Only one thing that I want to mention is that you need to keep in mind is whenever we are taking endpoints from Wayback URLs or Gao, there would be certain endpoints which would be broken or which do not exist anymore, because all those endpoints are crawled by these crawlers of Wayback Archive and different projects. So there could be a possibility they are not the fresh endpoints, there may be a older endpoints that possibly would have been removed or broken. But it is also an advantage for us, because sometimes developer may have done a mistake before and they must have exposed something. It could be an vulnerable endpoint, which they have removed later on, but the endpoint still works. Or maybe something sensitive into those endpoints. Maybe an endpoint to a certain panel where you can just go and log in or something like that. Okay, so always make sure that you properly try to identify whenever you get data from those particular endpoints using get all URLs or wayback. That could be useful for you. Let's take more questions. What is the difference between active and passive spidering? So active spidering is basically you're crawling the application right now, all the fresh endpoints from the application. Passive crawling is basically the crawlers like Shodan, Google Docking, or Census, Grey Noise. They have already crawled these applications and they have all the endpoints saved over time. Okay, over the time they have saved all the endpoints. Now developers may have removed those endpoints, changed or modified something. So in that case, your endpoints may be broken that you identify from these passive crawling tools. Okay. By JavaScript, we can inject keylogger. Yes, you can do that with the help of JavaScript. You can inject keylogger, and you can get keystrokes as well. Okay. Uh, Guys, please stop requesting for annotation request. This is not really cool. I can see a lot of people are requesting for annotation request. If we get more requests like this, we're going to remove you from the specific meeting, because it is a disturbance to the participants as well as the moderators. Okay. Any questions more? Do you have? Share GitHub projects on Python. For crawling, yes, definitely we will share. I will identify and share the projects that can be used by you people for active crawling. You guys can also use FUF to specifically brute force endpoints for a specific target. You can just look up FFUF on GitHub and you can see how you can do active crawling with the help of a good word list. Okay. Can we get your notes? Yes, definitely. These notes will be provided into the Mighty Networks link from the website itself, wherein you can get these notes. Okay. Anyways, these recordings are also going to be provided to every one of you, so you guys can also always refer back to the recordings in that case if you need it. Okay. What to do after recon? So this question requires a lot of time to explain what are the steps that you need to do after recon. In case you want to know, you can utilize a mind map that I have created. So I've created this mind map, which will be useful for you to understand what can be done or what are the next steps into your methodology that you need to perform. Okay. So you can see over here, first we start from ASN, content discovery, certificate transparency, JS enumeration, vertical, horizontal correlations. What are the web app attacks that you need to do? What are some cool GitHub repositories? So with the approach, I've also listed the tools and the websites that you can utilize to do a specific attack type. So this will be useful for you. I'm going to paste this link into the chat so everyone can use it. Are the word list like RockU still in use? RockU is a word list which is used for brute forcing usernames and password. I'm talking about now specifically, I'm talking about identifying endpoints for a specific target. So you guys can use asset node word list. Just go to wordlist.assetnode.io and here you will get word list for everything. I mean, for different CMS and different technology stack, maybe PHP, JSP, and so on. Okay. If you specifically want to identify for URL endpoints, there are specific word lists to that as well. In case you want to identify maybe subdomains, if you want to do subdomain fuzzing using FUF, you can also identify subdomains for that. So here is a best DNS word list. You guys can utilize this word list. It is an excellent word list to do active subdomain enumeration. Generally, what we do, we will take up this topic into the next class. That what is subdomain enumeration, what is active subdomain enumeration, passive subdomain enumeration, what are the tools, approach, and how you can do it. Okay. What about SecList better than RockU? So again, RockU is a specific word list with username and password. SecList is totally different. SecList contains word list for each and every attack type. It also contains usernames and passwords. Okay, attacks like XSS, SQL, LFI, those word lists are there into SecList. Okay, it also contains username and password word list. So SecList is a you can consider is a bigger version. It can be considered as a security researcher's companion, which contains a lot of word lists that is useful for different test cases. Okay. Will you show a demo for keylogger using JavaScript in this environment? I wish I could show it. We are out of time. We have only few minutes left. You guys can, I can point you guys to certain blocks wherein you can identify how you can execute a keylogger with the help of XSS. Okay. Any more questions, guys? Please, if you could ask some questions that are specific to today's class, that would be great. Any specific questions that you have understood for, and if you have any doubts that you want to ask for today's specific class. Anyways, we are going to have maybe at the end of when this bug bounty workshops end, we will have an open discussion where we can discuss about a lot of things. Okay. Sir, openbugbounty.com has limited bugs report. Now we can report some authentication bugs to some site which don't have bug bounty programs. You're right, Raghav. So Open Bug Bounty only has 5 amount of bugs, that is XSS, access control issues, GDPR issues, and they do not have or they do not accept different types of bugs like SSRF and authentication. bypass issues. So what you can do is you can reach out to those specific programs. First thing, that I do not recommend you to hunt on specific programs that do not have a bug bounty program, because whatever efforts you're putting into may not be rewarded or acknowledged properly first. Second, I do not recommend hunting on programs that do not have a bug bounty program or a responsible disclosure policy, is they are not ready with their infrastructure for someone to test in. Okay, it may end up that we may break something onto those programs because they are definitely not ready for this. Hence, do not invest your efforts under these types of programs, but definitely if you want, you can hunt on specific programs that has a disclosure policy, or maybe have bug bounty policy, wherein you can also get rewarded for bugs that you are hunting for and your efforts that you're putting into. Okay, any more questions? Which one is more secure, WEP or WPA? WPA2 is more secure. Uh, it is a newer version of the wireless encryption protocol. Is there any PDF version of this? I think we have a PDF version of it. We will share the PDF version for it. Till then you can utilize the PNG version. I think this is pretty much clear. You guys can make out things from here itself. But we will also try to provide the PDF version. We have it. We'll see if we can get it. OSCP or CEH? It depends upon you, what you want to do. OSCP helps you develop a mentality towards solving labs, and there are challenges based on Linux as well as challenges based on Windows 80 network infrastructure. That is a different approach. In CH, generally you don't do this. You're more focused towards ethical hacking part, and some of it also touches the web application security part. So you guys can feel free to check out the curriculum for both of it, and based on your interest and your inclination towards it, you can go ahead for any of the certifications. We take classes with Isaac. Yes. So let's take this last question. Most of the time, this payload is blocked, that is quotes, double quotes, and closing tags. So what you need to do is you can do 2 to 3 things. First is try on the application if these quotes are being blocked or stripped. If this is blocked or stripped, let's say a payload like this, if this is getting blocked, okay, then what we are going to do over here is you can try, the first thing is encoding of the payload. Okay, we will try to encode our payload, and we'll see if the web application is properly sanitizing the user input that has been provided, or we are able to bypass that particular restriction. So what you can do is you can encode your payload using URL encoding. You can also use double URL encoding. Next is you guys can use HTML encoding itself in your payload. Okay. Next is you can use Base64 encoding. We have identified program wherein we are able to supply a Base64 encoded payload. And the fifth one is you guys can use polyglots. Okay. So with the help of this, you can maybe try to bypass the restrictions that has been applied on the web application for user input sanitization. Okay. Generally, what happens on certain applications, developer put HTML encoding mitigation, but onto the main page. You just try to crawl the web page, identify more and more parameters from that specific web application, and always try to see if all the endpoints are properly secured or no. There would be a test case in which you may identify that certain parameters are properly doing HTML encoding, but whatever input you are giving is getting reflected at 100 places, and all those 100 reflections are not properly HTML encoded or sanitized. And there is a point at that specific time where you can pop up a XSS. Okay. Sir, what is the use of SVG vectors? So we use SVG vectors for performing XSS. Okay, it is just that we are using, you guys can also use, instead of script, you can use image source, audio source, video source, these types of payloads. So SVG is again an attack vector that you can use into your JavaScript payload. Okay, so you can use audio source equals to as well. You can use video source equals to as well for popping XSS. Image source, similarly SVG as well. Okay. We have a lot of questions coming up, but unrelated to the topic that we have learned today, I would definitely recommend we stick to the topic today. We'll have an open discussion at the end where we can discuss about each and everything that you guys have questions about. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. Awesome. So thank you so much, guys. In case any of your questions are left out, definitely we'll try to take up your questions once again in the upcoming class. We are short of time, and it's just that we have completed the time bar over here. I hope you guys understood and got some useful insights from today's session and are able to learn something new. Okay, feel free to ask questions to us anytime that you want. Also, please do hands-on practicals. If you practice at that time, you will be able to understand, so here are some milestones that I'm coming over. So whenever you practice and do hands-on, at that time you will understand, yeah, I need to figure out this, I need to do this. With the help of this, I'm able to bypass this using that way. And that is the best way of learning things, by practicing. Okay, so I wish you all the best, everyone. Thank you for joining. Also, take part, if you're a college student or a defense personnel, take part into the hackathon, Indian Army hackathon, which is starting. It is definitely going to be an awesome journey, and you guys are going to love the challenges that are being created. So definitely have a look at it. And if you are a